Our top story, Malawi's president has appealed for global support to tackle a national tragedy after Cyclone Freddy pummeled the Southeast African nation, causing flooding and mudslides that have killed hundreds of people.
Malawi is in a state of disaster. What Cyclone Freddy has done is to pull us back even when we were trying to rebuild because of past tragedies. And I appeal to the international community to please look at us with such favor, because we need help. We need help in terms of people that have been rescued, who have lost everything.
The storm returned to the African coast over the weekend for a second time in less than 3 weeks. Cyclone Freddy had largely spared Malawi the first time round, but this time it has left a trail of death and destruction in the country. President Lazarus Chakwera has even declared 2 weeks of national mourning after the cyclone killed hundreds of people. The number of casualties, which was at 90 on Monday, has now risen to 225. Moreover, according to officials, another 134 people are injured while 16 are reported missing. Meanwhile, people of Malawi are burying the victims of cyclone. Dozens of people attended the service held at a primary school where 21 coffins, some decked with simple wreaths, were lined up under a tent.
Nthawi kwa ife ndi nthawi yovuta kwambiri. Ndi nthawi yovuta yopweteka, yogwetsa nkhongono, chifukwa kulira maliro a anthu ochuluka chonchi si chinthu chophweka.
A somber-looking Chakwera wearing a raincoat and rubber boots attended the funeral. He said that authorities would step up efforts to account for the missing. The government has promised some $1.5 million to assist the tens of thousands of Malawians affected by the storm. According to forecasters, weather conditions are expected to improve as the storm dissipated after days of torrential rain. But localized thunderstorms would persist. The flooding and rain have disrupted rescue operations as well. It has made it difficult to get relief to those affected. In our next report, we will tell you more about the situation in this cyclone-hit country.
In one of the areas worst hit by Tropical Cyclone Freddy, people are trying to piece their lives back together. This is Umbayani, a township in Malawi's second biggest city, Blantyre. On Wednesday, authorities said the death toll from what is one of the longest-lasting and strongest storms ever recorded in the Southern Hemisphere had risen above 270. The majority of the deaths are in Malawi. Others have been recorded since Freddy first made landfall in February in Mozambique and Madagascar. The storm tore through southern Africa for the second time at the weekend, and heavy rain persisted on Wednesday. Many around Blantyre have been killed in mudslides. In Umbayani, residents were woken in the early hours of Monday morning by the roaring sound of mud and water. Aina Pagoti and her 7 children escaped to a relative's house after their home was destroyed.
If various aid agencies could come and help, even the government, that would be a relief to rebuild our house. Look at it. It's completely destroyed. I have a big family and we're all stranded.
Malawi's army, police, the local Red Cross and other aid agencies are conducting search and rescue operations. Power supplies have also been severely damaged, as well as bridges broken and roads destroyed.
The scale of devastation in the wake of Cyclone Freddy is immense. We are now joined by Robbie Reda, Director of South-South North from Ethiopian capital Addis Ababa. Robbie has also been the Ethiopia country head for the Climate and Development Knowledge Network. Thank you, Mr. Redda, for speaking with WION. Mr. Redda, let me begin by asking you about the UN Refugee Agency, which has said that it is deeply concerned by the devastation and impact of Cyclone Freddy. Give us a sense of the extent of disaster there in Malawi, and could so many casualties have been prevented by better planning?
Yes, it's been devastating. I mean, it's been all over the news what the extent of the damage is. I mean, there's two sides to this discussion. On one hand, you know, with such floods and cyclones and tropical storms, they're becoming wetter, windier, and more intense due to global climate change, and that's what scientific reports are telling us. So, regardless of how well we plan them at the locals, at the impact area level, we need to take global action to address climate change. So that's the bottom line. But you know, there's a lot that can improve at the impact level, or at the country or locality level where this storms are happening. From, you know, managing solid waste, we don't have, you know, good drainage systems. Most of them are blocked. I'm not specifically talking about Malawi, but in most of the developing world, including where I live in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, our infrastructure does not take into account such impacts, and so on and so forth. So we need better infrastructure. We need proper planning, and so on and so forth. So yes, it's both sides.
Mr. Redda, not just Cyclone Freddy, we are seeing extreme weather patterns across the world, from the double whammy of extreme weather at the two American coasts, to floods in Australia, to extreme heat in Argentina. How do you read these phenomena, and how do we prevent them from becoming more frequent and more intense?
You know, it's exactly, that's a good point. I mean, climate change basically is the change in rainfall pattern and temperature, and because of the greenhouse gases, the gases, and climate can change due to has naturally changed over time. And also has come about as a result of you know, anthropogenic human-induced factors, and the underlying factors are greenhouse gases, you know, that we're producing, land use change, which you know, all our green areas, space, with population increase and other things is being converted. You know, the green plants do have the capacity to as carbon sinks are being converted into, you know, the other uses. So in such context, temperature, global temperature, the globe is warming up, and what this results in is a shift in pattern, not just a shift in pattern of the climate, but also you know, intensity and frequency of extreme weather events are there. As a global society, we've agreed we're trying to make the effort to not increase global temperature beyond 1.5 degrees, but that's, you know, that's becoming more and more challenging due to the lack of action, both in the developed and predominantly in the developed world, where there is a lot of the greenhouse gas is being emitted, but also to an extent in the developing world as well, where we need to take actions to adapt to these changes. So in a nutshell, this is you know, an important global issue that we need to address.
Sir, do you think there is lack of political will to combat climate change at national levels? It doesn't dominate the political discourse in countries. Governments only talk about climate change when faced with disasters like Cyclone Freddy.
Yes, exactly. I think there is a need to make that climate change discourse integral to the political agenda and government action. There is improvement in the actions we take, or how central climate change is part of the planning as part of government and so on, but it's not enough. And most of our election cycles, in any countries, 5-year cycles. And when we talk about climate change, it's longer term impact. So that's also another reason for it. Short term governments, shorter term governments addressing longer term impact. So there is that need to yes. I agree to an extent that it's the sort of, it's in the back burner. It's not seen as a priority, but it is a priority. I think in this space we also need to translate how we describe these issues. Climate change only comes when a flood occurs, like you say, or a drought occurs. But addressing climate change can also be a good transformational change, shifting from fuel to renewable energy or clean energy is good for humanity, it's good for health, it's good for a number of other things. So we should also present it as an opportunity rather than a response action to a natural disaster.
Mr. Redda, we are seeing the extent of devastation due to Cyclone Freddy, but parts of Africa also suffer from extreme heat. What is the impact on societies and economies of African countries due to extreme weather and extreme temperatures?
It's major. It's got major devastation to a country's economy. Most rural communities, and in a country like Ethiopia, it's 80 to 90% of the population is rural. It's dependent on land. It's dependent on rainfall for its food production, and not just extreme weather events, but climate change in general results in loss of livelihoods. Cattle, a big share of the populations on our continent are pastoral, and that's are extremely vulnerable to drought. Their food production is highly dependent on rainfall, so there is a direct food security issue there as well. So it becomes a big share of our economy that sustains 80-90% of our society population is being impacted as a result of such impacts, and maybe and in the future this will become, with an increasing population, with population increase, this will severely have further severe detrimental impacts.
All right, Robbie Redda, Director of South-South North, thanks very much for joining us from Addis Ababa.